A little bit of the late start for those of us joining live. I'm really excited about today. I feel like people often ask me about the style cube for men and how my style system works for men's fashion and men's styling. So I'm really excited to talk about it, and I'm going to be using the UFC fighters as an example today. But first, I'm going to just remind you a little bit about the basics of the system. The style key works the same really for men and for women, but it's just a slight modification for men. The main differences for me, I do think that there is some keywords and of course archetypes that I phrase in order to be more appealing to the majority of men versus the majority of women. So there's some differences in phrasing. And then there are some differences in how the styling is executed, mostly because there are significantly fewer options for men's styling. For women, just style is more complicated because there are a lot more variables which you can manipulate, just because a lot more options available to women. So that's really like the main difference between the men and the women's style. As I said, I think the style logic, the concept of the system, everything else is very similar. Hello, good evening. Thank you for coming. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to first just talk a little bit about going over the basics of the system in case you would like some reminders and some explanations, and then we'll talk about some UFC examples. Okay, I'm going to try sharing it in Sorry, I opened it up and then I was like, I want to sharing the PDF as an interactive slide. Okay, it doesn't want to let me. We'll just look at Canva instead, whatever. Okay. So here we are. Here is the kind of overview of the system. So the basic premise of the whole style key system, as you know, is to harmonize your essence as a person with your style. We define essence as a very general concept, meaning the overall impression, the overall experience of you as a person. And the idea is that your visual style, the way you present yourself, should be in harmony with the way that you and other people experience you. And that's the purpose of the system as a whole, right? And then, of course, we also have this component called the style logic, where it's kind of the thing that links the essence and the style together. It's how you make your styling decisions, how you as a person create that style that's going to harmonize your essence with your style. And as you know, also, there are the 4 quadrants in the system. So the whole premise of the system is that we have these essences that we want to harmonize with the styles, and we categorize the essences into 4 different categories, right? Just using this very basic rectangular plane, those are our 4 big categories. And as you can see, we kind of have the left and the right and the up and the down, and those are the main boxes. So first, I'm just going to talk about the left versus the right, where I see the left versus the right as basically the impression of you as a person, the energy. So for men, I use the keywords for their essence, that they have the raw, the intimidating, the wild essence. I have some other keywords, but I like these. And then I also like the idea of the father for men as this figure. If this doesn't make sense to you, just ignore it. I really like it. But so for men, the left essence is raw, it's intimidating, it's wild, it's the father. And so to harmonize with this essence, the left men's aesthetic, the style you want to create, has some sort of visual intrigue, and it has some sort of a theme of dissonance, whether it's dissonance between expectation and reality, dissonance between the different aspects of your outfit, dissonance between your role and your presentation. It's something about creating a positive and exciting tension. And then your style logic, which we're not going to talk much about, right? But it should be impulsive and inner driven. That's the left. In comparison, for the right, we have the essence that's pure, impressive, it's refined, it's the sun. So their aesthetic, instead of being logic and dissonance, is about clarity and harmony. So you want your style visually to create an impression of harmony and for things to be clearly belonging together to you, to who you are, belonging together visually in terms of colors and textures. And again, we're not going to talk much about the logic, but you have the responsive conceptual logic. So that's the main kind of like axis of difference, right, in terms of the overall vibe, the left versus the right. And then in addition to the left versus the right, as you remember, we also have the up versus the down. And whereas the left versus the right is this explanation about the overall feel and vibe of you as a person, up and down is like, how do you best express this essence? How do you best translate your essence out through style? So how can you best use style? So for down essence, it's really for people, men, in this case, the men, their words, it's for men who really value the sensation of authenticity, the need for freedom, the feeling of ease, right? You want the clothes that just feel really natural and like you're not trying that much. Even if you are trying, you want it to feel effortless. And that leads us also to the aesthetic. You want an aesthetic that has something more bare about it and that has the feeling of effortlessness. And again, an effortless aesthetic does not always mean your style is actually effortless. It's just about creating that impression, kind of a freshness. And again, the logic we're not going to talk much about, but their priority is the experience. So because you value this authenticity, this feeling of freedom, for you, what is most important when translating your essence through style is to think about your experience of the clothes. That's the priority. If we compare that to the up essence, their values are control and structure, right? So they are valuing a sensation of putting together a very deliberate outfit where there is a vision that they are executing and creating a structure where there is some sort of bigger picture and a sense of this very positive control, which leads them to this aesthetic that is more ornate and that has a higher effort. So again, it's things just look more effortful. It might be really easy for you to wear, maybe even pick it out very quickly, but you want this visual impression of effort and ornateness that accommodates your values. And with the logic, that's your impression. That's the priority for you. So how your style comes across to others, how your style is able to create impact on the world around you, how your style is received, how it influences others. Of course, both up and down value how they feel about the clothes and how the clothes are received by others. The point is that you have a maybe strong preference for your experience versus a slight or strong preference for the impression and the image that's created. And so again, we combine these different dimensions, the left, the right, the up, and the down, into the quadrants. So it's very easy. We have left up, left down. I have also really fun gemstone names for the quadrants, but in case you're a new person watching this video, I don't want to confuse you with a second set of names right now. This is straightforward. And then, as you can imagine, the combination of the two words in a quadrant is the combination of the essence things, right? So the right up quadrant, it combines the essence of right and up. So you have this pure, impressive, refined, the sun essence with a desire for your style and your clothes to feel like you're in control, to be creating some sort of a visual structure. You're looking then for an aesthetic, the visual style, which has elements of clarity, harmony, that's ornate and higher on effort. So it's structured, it's harmonious, but it's also higher effort. So a very example of that, right, would be a traditional maybe three-piece suit in some sort of a check pattern where everything is very geometric, very organized, very neat. You have accessories that are really matching. You have the pocket square that's harmonious to the tie. And then there's some sort of this element of ornateness, right? You have like maybe a tie pin, maybe you have like a really special watch, you have some sort of special shoes, and then there's this really high effort. Maybe you have a haircut that definitely looks like it needs to be refreshed every 3 weeks because the edges just perfection. So that's the aesthetic you're looking for to combine the essence and your values. And again, we're not going to talk about the logic right now. And so every quadrant has their own essence, values, and aesthetic. And beyond just being this big box, right, we also break the quadrant down into archetypes, right? So these are kind of like subsections of the bigger archetype and of the bigger quadrant. And the purpose of the archetypes is just to give some more flavor to the system a sense more of customization, because if you're a person who is all the way on the right, all the way up, like the knight, then for example, you have usually a very high need of all of these right-up things we talked about, right? You have a very high, very refined, very impressive essence. You have a very high need for control in your styling. You have a desire for a very ornate, high effort aesthetic. And I call it the knight because the idea is really about being visually in maximum service to values, institutions, whatever, and really being in the highest possible harmony with your role, with the environment, etc., as possible. Whereas if you compare it to somebody, like the print, they're less in the box. So even though they have that same need for things to be very refined, they are less interested in the effort in the same way. So they have a little bit more of a relaxed, playful aspect. So that's the basics. And then, we have the archetypes for every quadrant, but we're going to just kind of scoot ahead and we're going to talk about the UFC fighters. I just wanted to give you that reminder about what's going on in the system. Okay, I'm going to check the comments now. Wanted to do words. I've never been so excited about men before. I'm how happy I can do that. I'm really excited about this in general, and people have been really asking about the men's system. Even though this is specific to men, says Haley, the quadrant information gave me even more clarity. Good, I'm really happy about that, because I do think that, as I said, there's a lot of similarity between the way I use the system for men and women. I just think there are important differences, which again, mostly just come down to how very different men and women's styling is. So for example, I don't love the word bare as much for women because I think that there's so much more physical, literal stuff you can put on your body as a woman while still kind of accommodating the down essence, because there's just so much more that women can do. So those are kind of like minor differences, but I mean, the point is very similar. And of course, this is a good time to mention that Style Thoughts by Rita and the Style Key is a complete gender freedom area. So if you want to use the men's, the women's system, if you want to mix them together, like, you have absolute permission, and it is not necessary for you to have some sort of a gender expression to use the system in any way. You just do exactly whatever you want with it. And that's, you just have my full permission to do that. The reason I have the men and women's system, again, not just because of differences in men and women's style, but also because the style world is organized for men and women in terms of shopping, etc. And because for most people, gender is one of the key signifiers for their personality. And I say that with like full respect to anybody who is non-binary anywhere on the spectrum. Like, I don't mean that in an oppressive heteronormative way. I just mean like, that's just how things are, and I don't think that's a bad thing for people who are happy to do that. So it's easier for me to offer the men and the women's option, and then for you to find your unique combination that best responds to your personal individual needs, rather than for me to try to guess how you would combine them for yourself. Oh, great. And Melanie says, I'm non-binary, so I really wanted to understand the male archetypes as well. Well, I guess we didn't talk that much about the male archetypes today because I feel like that would take a lot of time. So I would love to do that in the future if people are interested. If you are interested, you should like the video, you should comment, because this helps me on YouTube and would be really nice for me. And the more engagement I get on my videos, the more likely I'm able to make more videos. So just a small note on that. Oh, hi Leah, thank you for saying that I've done amazing work. Thank you. That's nice. Okay, so we're gonna go into our UFC party here today. So I have picked 4 UFC fighters. I of course have some more UFC people to type at the end, but those are the ones I wanted to get started with. And if you're not a UFC person, it looks kind of like this. I just Googled UFC wallpapers because I wanted to find something that represented the vibes for you. But I kind of doubt that anybody would click on this if they were not into the UFC. But in case you're not, welcome. I'm not actually like a huge UFC fan in one sense. I really don't like the UFC because I really don't like violence, and it's hard for me to kind of watch like that, most of the time. But even though I don't have a very high first order interest in it, I have a very high second order interest in the UFC because Mirage is really interested, and I love being interested in the things Mirage is interested in. And the UFC is really, really fun to follow if you're interested in style for a few reasons. So first of all, I would say it's very character driven, right? So unlike, in sports, right? It's always about the story and the narrative, like our country beat this country, this team beat this team. And like the coach, he like redid the whole defensive line. So this is why the team is, it's always about and the bigger story. But in the UFC, since it's always one versus one person, each fighter is really responsible for their own story. And the reason people watch isn't just to watch people beating each other, although I think that's a big appeal. But I think people are also really watching because you're really invested in seeing like, can this person make it? And when you learn something about them and the way they've come up, their attitude, their story, their style, fight style, right? There's so many things that make you really invested in the person. So it makes the UFC a really great target for style-based discussions because the fighters themselves have a really big incentive to develop their style in accordance with their character story. Because the UFC is very much a branding game, right? It's a huge entertainment company. It's super successful. And like I said, it's really focused on this individual. And the bigger your fan base, the more likely you are to get better fights or get a bonus or whatever. So you have incentive really to become popular. And of course, like fighting is the priority, but I think this kind of branding, personal positioning is a really, really important part of it. And they have so much freedom in the UFC. So you do some sort of pre-fight, right, press conferences, you do the face-offs, you do post-fight press conference, you do just appearances, you can do podcasts and stuff. So there's a lot of times when the fighters are quite visible in the public eye when they don't have a dress code. So for example, in the NFL, I think they have to wear a suit, right? And you can still wear different suits and accessorize them, but it's a different vibe compared to the UFC where it's like really you just do whatever you want to do. And so we get such a big diversity of styles being presented. And I think that really gives us the scope to observe how do people harmonize their visual presentation with the overall vibe of themselves as a person. And of course, the reason I skipped over the style logic stuff is because we don't really know what their style logic is about. We have no idea. So we're just speculating based on how they look and their overall feel. And I want to say also, when I talk about people's essence and I comment their outfits, when I talk about celebrities, I always do it in kind of an exaggerated way for entertainment. But it's really important to note that you don't try to directly copy and paste my analysis onto yourself or the men around you, because this is entertainment also. Okay. I'm talking like very intensely at you because I really want to have time for everything we're going to talk about, and I really want to keep it to my 1 hour today. But I just want to say hi. Thank you, everybody, for being here. I'm really, really happy to have you here. And because, I just feel like the men's content always gets way less interest. So then I have way less incentive to make it. But I just find it so fun. So I'm really, really happy that you're here. Also, Style Thoughts by Rita, I tried to wear something that was like, I'm not a fighter. This is my not a fighter outfit. Okay, Morgan says, this very clear branding aspect can make it a tad difficult to suss out a quadrant, but I guess it's the same thing with other kinds of celebs and how they all have a brand. So I think I wanted to highlight this comment because I think it's a really good point that, again, we don't really know these people. We are typing Alexander Volkanovski as the fighter, Alexander Volkanovski, and we don't really know what goes on behind the scenes. But I have to say that I chose people with whom I'm very familiar. So As said, Miraj, my beautiful angel husband, is a huge UFC fan. So I've seen a lot of like videos, promos, interviews. And so I've just seen a lot of footage of these men in many different contexts. So that's why I'm like, okay, I get the overall essence they're putting out. Oh, thank you, Marina. I just love getting compliments. And I also love when you comment really nice things and when you like my videos, because that really helps me. Okay, now we're going to talk about the fighters. And we're going to start with Alexander Volkanovski. So again, you know, he's Alexander the Great. He's really amazing. He's really iconic. I think he's probably my favorite UFC fighter because, you know, he's so amazing. And I also just like admire him and his vibes and being so much. So that's what he looks like. Naked men in like a cage in little shorts, like fighting each other in a sometimes slightly homoerotic way, but most of the time just very frighteningly violent. Okay, so that's what he looks like. And now we are going to look at how Alexander comes to his face-offs. Alexander, when he comes to a face-off, and this is part of the UFC where you meet your opponent and you take a photo of like you looking at each other in an intimidating way, right? So if I zoom out this photo, you can see him. I'm so sorry, I don't know who that is. I know I should know, but you can see Alexander. So he's wearing a white T-shirt. It's a cool, like it's a style white T-shirt. It has something on the collar. It has something on the back. It has a very thick kind of like cloth that like hangs over him, and he has, I think, a promotional necklace for Prime. Is it here, Rodriguez? Okay, he has a promotional necklace, but he likes to wear necklaces in general, and that's kind of his standard face-off look. He will often just wear a T-shirt. He has a bit of tattoos, kind of keeping things quite simple. So already here, what are you guys thinking, right? Okay, Alex and Yair on the left. I'm sorry. Thank you, Inquiry, for letting me know. Sherry, I just want to say, I don't think their stylist is being typed. So I think this is true for some people in the UFC, but definitely not the men in this stream. I'm definitely not typing them just on their outfits. I'm 100% typing them on their essence in the way, and like, again, I just want to say there is a lot of things that I mean in their essence. It's the way they interact with the coaches. It's the way they talk to the camera. It's the way they answer questions. It's the way they talk about their future. It's the way they say stuff after the fight. It's just how they present themselves. It's all the voice, the mannerisms. And of course, it is how they choose to dress up. But I also think like there's some examples where I had a hard time typing because I thought their style was not that good, but I chose people specifically whose style I feel is like very aligned to their essence for the purpose of the style key. So I just want to like clarify that like we're doing some real stuff here. So Alexander, right? So I just want to say the first thing like we can tell right here from him is like I would say bare, right? And ease. It's very, these are just super relaxed outfits. They're not the boring or bland, but they're very easy and very minimal. And so if we look at him also in other face-offs with the belt, right? So again, he really likes this silhouette of having kind of a big, heavy shirt. He has some cool sneakers. He often has a necklace. He has a watch. He has this quite carefully trimmed beard and stuff. But overall, he really likes to keep his look quite simple, I would say. And I think that this is really interesting for him. And here's some promo photos. Again, even when he's on a red carpet or he's taking promo photos, he really opts for this very sporty, quite casual and easy style. And I think this is something really helpful for us to think about. So if we go back to the whole concept, right, on the essences, let me scroll up a bit, right? I would say, first of all, we definitely have seen that he's going for the aesthetic that's more bare, more effortless, and really focused on ease. And this is not just about the fact that Alexander wears things that are a little bit simple, like a t-shirt. I think for me, it's also the whole vibe behind his style. He's a super champion. Everybody's super scared of him. He's really, really good at fighting, and he takes fighting super seriously. But he doesn't need to kind of try to flex with his style, and he's not trying to look like a super tough guy, nor like a super fashion guy. It's just like the clothes are just kind of there to, you know, he definitely looks like he cares. He doesn't look like sloppy, But the clothes are just there as kind of a supporting character. He's not trying to flex on anybody using style. He's kind of flexing on it by being himself. And so that's why I feel like the down essence is the best home for him. But then also looking in terms of the left and the right, and this is something in terms of his pure essence, and we don't really, I don't know how many clips we can watch to go into it, but I think Alexander clearly represents the left essence with being very raw, very intimidating, very much the father energy. I think it's really fun, for example, whereas when they do these pre-fight promos with other fighters, they can talk a bit like with their coaches, kind of like slightly darting them around, like, oh, you got this, like everything's going to be good, like, and they're reassuring them or encouraging them. Alexander, he's like his own coach, you know what I mean? I actually think he literally is kind of his own coach because he does his own analysis on what he wants to train and then he tells them what to, I don't know. Anyway, he's very authoritative father in charge, very raw, very intimidating, and I feel like his style is more based visually on kind of the intrigue. And I think a really fun example of this, let me scroll way back down to where we are. I think a really fun example of this is this outfit I found of him in this suit. So again, I just want to say, I really, really feel like this is just offensive to him, and I'm not criticizing him as a person. This suit really upsets me for Volkanovski because, so this is a very classic, I would say very right suit, because both, it is very neat, very traditional, very classic, right? We have this very strict geometric pattern. We have these polka dots on the tie. The polka dots on the tie are matching the polka dots on the pocket square. Red, white, and blue color scheme is so traditional. And there's these, super shine leather shoes, the tie clip. Everything is just very deliberate, very carefully put together. And I feel like he is completely stifled in this outfit. And I feel like it is not at all allowing him to represent his very amazing, unique, powerful essence. And then I think, like, if he goes around looking like this all the time, right, because who cares, he wore the suit once, but if he went around wearing the suit all the time, I feel like his story as a fighter, his image, and just, his persona would not at all be as powerful. I feel like, he looks very unhappy. So our verdict on Volkanovski is that we're going to put him in the left down quadrant. And somebody guess the charmer for him. Oh, sorry, let me get his face. I feel like, okay, I don't know about the charmer. I think that he has this very, very, I think I'm going to put him kind of right here where he's like the rebel, but he's kind of like near the center, because I feel like that's the feeling I have. So Volkanovski, he is the rebel. He has this very intimidating essence, and he best translates his essence through a style that appears effortless, relatively bare, not ornamental, not really trying to flex with his style, but rather being more focused on himself. Okay, and now we're going to go and we're going to see a contrast. If you're not super familiar with the UFC, you might at this point be like, okay, so he's a sports guy and he's wearing sports clothes. What's new, Rita? So, okay, we're going to see something else now. But I just also like take a little break and say, like, are you finding this compelling? Is there any, like, can I explain it better in any way for you, beautiful people? Take a moment. Okay, I'm going to take this as a consensus, a joyful consensus about the quality of the presentation. Okay, and we're going to move on to our next fighter, which is going to be Sugar Sean O'Malley. So Sugar Sean O'Malley is really famous because he just won a really big fight this last weekend. I watched it. he like really beat up Aljamain Sterling, who we're also going to talk about. Okay, but he's really fun. I like how he has a great Gen Z energy, the Gen Z doing anything. So we got Sean O'Malley, and now I'm just going to, so I just wanted you to see his fight photos so you get a bit of a sense of him as the fighter. Here he is in his face-offs. So here, like I think this is obviously an earlier time, he's wearing kind of a paisley blouse with these trousers and the belt, quite dressy. Here's a different time, he is wearing leather pants and no shirt, and he dyed his hair a really bright red. And he also has these super extra tattoos all over. And he has a watch. Okay. Another face-off photo. Here he's again doing shirtless. This time he's dyed his hair pink. He has put on this big chain in the belt, and he has kind of white pants. And here he is doing some press conferences and appearances. Here is a really cool red leather jacket. I think this was him arriving for a fight. Here's him doing, I think, a press conference in a pink suit. Here's another press conference, and he's wearing the orange suit. He has his hair dyed in all of these different colors. He has these contrast sunglasses. Here's just, yeah, face off something, whatever, press conference. He's wearing a giant kind of blue blazer with no shirt underneath, this really big yellow scarf, these 70s style round sunglasses. He has his hair all combed out. A different one, same pose. It's a good pose. I also like doing this, so I can relate. And he's got a really cool, really interesting jacket with things all over, and his hair has these different colors. He has some jewelry, no shirt again, etc. Here is another outfit of him at a press conference. He has kind of a traditional trucker suit, but there's no shirt underneath, just a bunch of necklaces, these really, really funky pink sunglasses, and he's dyed his hair to different colors. Another one with a pink hoodie, sunglasses, and the dyed hair. So I feel like basically that kind of gives you a good impression of his style choices. So I'm going to go back over here, and I'm going to talk a little bit about how I see him right in the keywords. So as with Volkanovski, I really started with Sean O'Malley by just reacting to one of the dimensions. And I think for him, the left dimension is the really obvious. Most obviously, like, we can really describe his aesthetic as being very strongly characterized by intrigue and dissonance, right? So he really likes clothing which creates attention. So he'll wear this conservative suit jacket with no shirt underneath, or he makes his, hair all of these different colors that kind of clashes with the other things. He is just creating, I think, a lot of like really nice visual disharmony in an exciting way. And then, so that's his like dissonance and intrigue. So I feel like he goes on the left. And then in terms of the up versus down, I think he's very clearly going in the up because he has an aesthetic that's very high on effort. It's very, very ornate, right? So not only does he has so many things going on in his different outfits, right? So he has the hair, which obviously is done to look like very complex. It obviously takes super long to dye the hair. He has the very, very many different tattoos, which he accessorizes with a lot of jewelry. He wears a lot of different colors and textures. He has several items of visual interest per outfit, right? So he will combine all of these different textures, all of these different colors, all together in an outfit in a bit of an unexpected way. And I feel like it's like the left and the up combined together for him because he's really creating, right, that impression of the intrigue, because it's very interesting what he does, right, with these really funky, very dark sunglasses. They really create this intrigue in terms of you can't see his eyes, and they're very unexpected. And I think his visual brand is very much about standing out in the UFC and having a very unique personal style. And I think that really speaks to his desire for this like impression priority and the desire for his style to make the visual impact, which again doesn't mean like he doesn't care how he himself experiences this style, but it just seems like that's what he is more focused on. So that's where we're going to go back to Shikishan. Oh yeah, wait, I had a really fun outfit for him. I wanted to show you. I found it just an outfit of him like in a sweater. And I thought this was quite funny because it's just him in his sweater and he has a necklace that says sugar. And it's like, okay, there's seriously nothing really wrong with this outfit. I really want to make it clear I'm not laughing at a person for wearing a sweater. But I thought it was funny once you see him in kind of his natural element, like the way that he wants you to be seen, the way that he's meant to be seen for his persona and his fighter identity to make sense. Once you see him in that way, you realize, oh, but if he was just dressed like this all the time, in the sweaters and pants and simpler colors and textures, you wouldn't at all really understand the story, right, with him. You would just be like, oh, okay, and maybe he would act in a very chaotic or impulsive or whatever way, but the side of him that is very focused on like artistry and bringing out something with his style and creating that impression would be really lost, and I think you would kind of underestimate how much fun he is visually. So that's where we're so let's put Sean on our map. I should do this a different way next time. We'll put Sean on our map, and of course, so we're going to put him into the left up quadrant. And I think for him, as I said, he's very far on the left. So I'm going to put him over here in kind of the Enigma Joker category. I also think I don't want to like make this live stream way too difficult by telling you all of my thoughts and feels and opinions, but a big part of the reason that he is the enigma instead of being the mystic is I also think because he really enjoys being that question mark as a person, and I think he can be predictable in his choices, and he can sometimes mix very like up or very down looking outfits, very high effort, low effort outfits, without sacrificing this sense of him. So, but that's kind of like we don't need to go that into detail to have a fun time. Okay, and now next up we're going to talk about Aljamain Sterling, who was defeated by Sugar Sean O'Malley, but before that had won very many times and is an excellent fighter. So that's Aljamain Sterling. Interesting. Inquiry says he fights more like the enigma than the mystic. Okay, I'm not good enough at UFC to type the fighting styles. Thank you, Morgan, for saying it's crazy different. It is interesting. Yeah, you're just like, who's that? Anyway, okay, now we're going to talk about Aljamain Sterling to continue our journey around the quadrants, right? And this is Aljamain Sterling. He's so buff. He's so powerful. He's a champion. Here he is, like smashing some guy's face in. Oh, awful. Okay, and here he's at the face-off. And what have we seen so far at face-offs? We've seen Volkanovski with the t-shirts. We've seen Sean O'Malley in leather pants and watches, and here we have Aljamain Sterling rocking up to the face-off in a suit. And you can see the guy he's facing up on, again, sorry for not knowing who that is just like in a Reebok hoodie. But Aljamain Sterling is there in his matching window pane suit. Here he is, another face-off. The guy's wearing a very fun tracksuit, and Aljamain Sterling is wearing a suit again. Here he is facing the Sugar Sean O'Malley for the fight. As you can see, Sean had 10 necklaces and there's window pane pants. Aljamain Sterling's got an orange suit. Very classy. And so in general, when I looked at Aljamain Sterling arriving, going from press conferences or going to the events, he loves suits and he loves really fun, playful, interesting suits that have a lot of visual interest. He really loves this necklace. As a big lover of jewelry and extra necklaces, I want to say I was so impressed by this necklace when I saw him take it off at the fight, because you think from far away, oh, it's gold, but it's actually gold, but like it's all of the links are covered with tiny little diamonds, I guess. I don't know how rich these people are. They're covered with tiny little stones. So that's like one of the most extra necklaces ever. So he loves to have it. And yeah, here he is in this shiny pink suit, all white. Here he's in this brocade suit. And remember, we've seen some of the other press conference looks, so you can see that he's doing his own thing, and it's quite different. So by now you're kind of more familiar, right? You can grab the system easier. So I think the one thing that immediately probably came to your mind was that we can easily place Aljamain Sterling on the up dimension, right? He is definitely going for a high effort, very ornate look, right? He's putting in the effort, he's trying the stuff, he's trying to make it look very extra, and he definitely is doing it for the impression priority. But unlike Sean O'Malley, who is doing the up with this like dissonant, chaotic left flavor, Aljamain's doing it with the right flavor, right? It's very visually harmonious, and it really accessorizes his very refined and impressive essence, right? So he's, and by harmonious, I mean like he's really using these classic tailored cuts, classic tailored patterns, classic combination, right? So if he's wearing a suit, he's gonna have a white shirt underneath. If he's wearing a suit that, if he's wearing a suit that wouldn't look like as fancy with the white shirt, he goes with the black shirt and the white shoes to kind of make the look land a little bit more. So he's definitely looking for the way to really harmoniously create the outfit. And I feel like he's also using a lot of color in a really nice way, right? So he has this, he looks for harmonious combinations, right? Pink and white, nice, like blue and white, right? Kind of classic combos. And always with this very, everything is just very, very neat on the edges. So that's pretty clear to me. Aljamain Sterling belongs to the right up quadrant because both of his generally impressive, refined essence, but also because of his aesthetic, which leans towards harmonious and ornate. And my counter examples for Sterling are this photo. Let's talk about this one for a second. This isn't horrible, right? But you're just like, why? Why do you do this if you could do this? Do you understand what I mean? And the problem here isn't like, oh, it looks fun. It's just that, you know, the pieces, it's too casual. I think the styling, right? The pieces are a bit too relaxed, where is it chambray? Is this a chambray blazer? Okay, it's kind of going with the gray pants, kind of going with the shirt, but it's not a suit. So you're kind of just like, it looks too casual. And then the necklace looks like too extra. So it almost looks a bit gaudy, right? Whereas where he has it with his really extra suits, the necklace looks perfectly at home. So he really needs that harmony between this very intense gaudy necklace he loves and the very intense, very playful suits he loves. And if he's lacking that, so we really see that he has a very high need for the harmony. And then also just, I wanted to show this outfit. He's just from a podcast. So he's wearing this like beanie t-shirt and a smaller chain, right? So this is not to say, oh, Aljamain Sterling can never go on a podcast wearing a beanie, right? That's not my point. But my point is, as with Sean, you're kind of like, oh, okay, like, I guess so. And you think that maybe if he dressed like that all the time, he would probably not have the star power he does, because not just because people are not taking him seriously, but I think more he gains so much confidence, having observed him. He gains a lot of confidence through this very extra, ornate, harmonious style that he does. Oh, this is interesting. Mommy, you're saying that he looks meek in the first simple suit, but the extra details really complete him. Yeah, it's like he really, I think he really benefits from things being as ornate and as harmonious as possible. So I almost think that we just want to put him all the way into that right up corner. But then again, he has a little bit of that playful vibe, you know, with the pink and everything. So I would say, let's take Aljamain Sterling and let's put him far on the right, and we'll put him kind of over here, where he is between kind of the knight and the prince. I feel like that's a happy place for him. So to summarize, Aljamain Sterling, right up quadrant, harmonious and ornate aesthetic that suits his essence, which is very impressive, the sun, light, and really focused on creating a sense of structure, deliberation, and effort with his style, which helps him show up in this very breezy and confident way. Okay, and I know that this became kind of a spoiler since, you know, we have since we have 4 quadrants and now we have 1 person left. So I'm sorry if the suspense quality is going to be lacking in this next part, but I feel like the entertainment value is still high. And I have some more people we can actually talk about after these 4. So I prepared some more bonus people. He should get an immediate rematch versus Sugar Sean O'Malley. Okay, I don't know, like, sure, I'm okay with it. I thought he wanted to, he wanted to go up a weight class, but then he got too scared to fight Alexander Volkanovski. Never thought I'd see a Rita video about my other special interests. Will you do UFC ladies too? I would love to do the UFC ladies. And if you are here having seen the last card, I was so completely blown away by the women. I was like, wow, they were amazing. It was my favorite women's fight ever. It was so good. So I really liked it. I would love to type the women for sure. I think it's really fun because, again, I think that it's fun for the same reason as it's fun to type the men, because you kind of think like, oh, they're fighters, so they're all kind of the same. Like they're all like intimidating and raw and kind of understated, but they're not, right? So I think that's really fun, and to see that the women, they also have their own. Yeah, really, she was so amazing. She was like she's so ferocious. Okay, Ailyn would also love some UFC women. Okay, but if you guys are interested, make sure you like the video. Make sure you leave me comments that say nice things, because the more engagement I get, the more videos I can make. Okay, and also subscribe to my channel, but you're probably subscribed because you're here. But I should say that also, because that's what you do on streams. Sterling would die versus Volkanovski. Yeah, he would. He would so die. Who would not die? Tell me a person who's not going to die. Okay, John Jones, I guess, would not die versus Volkanovski, but I meant like a reasonable person. Look, guys, I know so much about the UFC, even though like this is me during the fight. Oh, by the way, look, I got my nails finally done. They're kind of like the sky, and they're golden. They're like a golden sky. So I break just to talk about pretty stuff because, we've been talking about people beating each other to death for a while. Okay. Khabib is terrifying, but his Instagram gives very write-down vibes. Khabib is terrifying, but he's right down. That's spoiler alert. Let's it is so cool how they're on direct opposite ends. It is so cool. So let's talk about Khabib now. Let's go back to Khabib. But okay, I'll show you the Khabib outfits, but I just want to say more about Khabib as like a person, right? So if you don't know, Khabib's father is like the greatest MMA coach of all time. Some UFC person tell me. He's like the greatest UFC, the greatest MMA. I don't know. He's the greatest coach of all time. And Khabib, he really is like the son of the father, and he is like everything his father wanted him to be, and he was so pure and so inspiring and so refined. So that's very much the Khabib story as a fighter, that he's a son who truly delivered on his father's promise, and he's so virtuous and disciplined, and so he really presents himself as the light side, the Apollonian to the left Dionysian. So that's important for you to know when you just see pictures of him like punching Conor McGregor in the face, and it might not be so clear like, oh, this guy, he loves just to talk about his honor code and keeping the sport pure, etc. So Khabib face off, keeping it simple. Okay, it's a shirt, sweatpants maybe. Got like black pants and a black shirt, nice sneakers, really not so much. Conor McGregor came in a flexi suit. Conor's flexing. Khabib is just there. Again, face off in a polo shirt. I thought this was kind of a right down move to come to a UFC face off in a polo shirt, because it's just like, oh, well, it's like tidy and kind of professional. It's like, it's a professional engagement. I'm going to wear my polo shirt. So that was very sweet. And he's wearing like loafers. So here, just the way I analyze the outfit, right, is that it is refined. It's kind of classy, I think is a good word, right? It's a bit elegant because polo shirt, loafers, nice fit chinos, but it's on the easy side, right? It's not ornate. It's just minimal. We have the blue shoes, blue pants, blue shirt. There's not a lot of extras going on. So refined, harmonious, minimal, bare. And then, yeah, when he's traveling and doing stuff, he kind of goes just, okay, he's doing just kind of a t-shirt. But I personally don't love these looks for Khabib. I feel like they're okay. But and then I did find some pictures of him in suits, and I feel like he looks nice, right? So these are more, it looks a little bit stuffy maybe, but it's like he goes for these very classic suits again, right? Like navy. It's blue, it's stripes, it's checks. Underneath the suit, what do we have? A white shirt. But we're not going to have a tie. We're not going to have a pin. We're not going to have the pockets good. We're not going to have a big watch. We're just going to have the suit with a shirt. So making it very elegant, a little bit easy, right? Everything is very, very neat, but at the same time, just that touch of ease. So that's why I put Khabib in right down as the gentleman. And when I was looking for his fashion photos, by the way, trying to Google Khabib fashion is not a very successful endeavor, but I did find the photo shoot done of Khabib by Esquire, and I feel like they really captured him, right? This is, for me, such a Khabib outfit. It's this beigey, like, polo sweater, and it's like a nice watch, nice shoes, like these kind of chinos. It's like, it's just a very clean, elegant, easy look. And I feel like it really feeds into his essence as this, the pure son who is like very authentic, easy, true to himself. So that's why I put him as a gentleman. It's kind of like the George Clooney archetype. Do you know what I mean? It's like a lot of the right without the stress of the up. So kind of he gets that easy charm feeling. So that's where we're going to put him, right over here in the right up corner. So that's our 4 men. And just to read it one more time, Khabib, he has the right down essence. He definitely has the sun right energy. He is very pure. He likes aesthetics which are very elegant, very harmonious, but his aesthetic is focused on ease. It's bare, it's kind of understated and minimal, focused on the sense of authenticity rather than trying to create a very specific persona and project that using his style. Yeah, so that's the 4 like big stories I have prepared, and then I have some more people to show you. But I take a comments break for a moment because the fun thing with the live streams is that we can talk like people. Bethany. Hi, Bethany. Thank you for being here. In a more casual outfit, the necklace seems like an afterthought, but definitely more like part of the outfit in the fancier suit. I'm assuming you're talking about Aljamain. Yeah. So I think that's the vibe. And Alan says, Khabib seriously wrestled bears growing up. But why did he do it? Because his dad told him to. Gotta do what your dad says. And Marina suggests that we're going to watch some funny kittens after talking about fighting, which I think is a really great idea because we must kind of, relax. Inquiry says, have you wrestled the bears in a very gentleman way? That's how I imagine it too, like very respectful. Like he's like, I recognize that you have rights, but we need to fight right now. And Tosca is asking for the UFC ladies. Okay, I mean, like the video, comment below. And, if we're getting some interest, I think it's fun because as I said from the beginning of the video, for people who are new, I think the UFC is a really fun place to type people because it's very character driven and the fighters have a really strong incentive to create a visual brand through their style. Because the more distinctive personal brand they get, the larger their following, the better fights they actually get in the UFC. So even though most of their energy obviously goes to becoming better fighters, because they're like going to get beat to death if they don't, in order to make a successful career, it's important for them to be able to stand out from that branding perspective. And then, I mean, Sean O'Malley, right, big part of his success beyond, being the Terminator. Hi, Kekili. Thank you for coming and tuning into our men's stream. So what we've done so far is we've looked at 4 UFC fighters, and now we're just going to like finish up with some different ones. Oh, wait. This is also, sorry, you guys, the comments are like on fire today. I really like this comment where you're like saying that there's this contrast between the like, big fighter and then also the humbleness of Khabib. And I think that's why I liked him in the like beigey white outfit. My idea isn't like, oh, Khabib is bland like a bowl of oatmeal, so he should look like a bowl of oatmeal. It's more like that is for him, right, how he best expresses his essence, because he is all about being humble and fighting to make my dad proud. I just want to do a good job in the sport. But it's also funny. Sorry, now I'm like just dropping random Rita thoughts on you, but isn't it funny how Khabib, all the way on the right, all he talks about is, of course, making him proud in his dad, and he's going to quit the UFC, etc., for his family. So that's really beautiful, and I totally respect that. Whereas Volkanovski, like literally every interview, he's like, I do this for my family, for my kids. I'm gonna, I would rather die than lose the belt because my family. And it's like, it's just funny how they position themselves, right, into these roles, which again, those snippets of their persona, is that the reason they're getting put into the quadrant? But it's a really fun illustration of how they occupy these different roles. Marina, no, I don't think they're truly fighting to the death, but like, you don't know. You never know. Rose Namajunas. Okay, well, let's see. I want to show you some more male fighters. Is that okay? Is that okay? We just talk about some quickly because I feel like people just care and are interested. Get lost in my slides. Okay, so that's Khabib. Khabib, he's a gentleman. And I love that pose for him. It's like hand kind of over the heart, but like relaxed. He's in the chair. So Conor McGregor, very, very famous style guy in the UFC, always flexing to the max, all about making that impression, all about cultivating a persona, very, very ornate personal style, and a big need for this personal control over the brand, right? He's really going to put a lot of thought and effort into very deliberately curating a very unique, very specific style persona to him. So I put him highest on the up dimension, and I think he belongs to the left because he has this more intimidating, mystical tension energy, and I kind of put him up there between the mystic and the gentleman renegade, or as Miraj likes to call it, the Dark Knight. So if you think that's a fun archetype name, you should encourage Miraj, and we can name it that officially. So that's Conor McGregor, and that one is kind of well known. I mean, and he's a good style icon, so fun if you want to see a man having fun with style, although not having fun in life. Okay, Brandon Moreno, I put him as the angel. I don't know, I don't actually know if he's the angel, but for sure he's like so right down. Brandon Moreno, he's so pure and he's so lovable. And again, it's the visually in terms of the style, he's very strong on the down dimension where he really likes to keep it very bare, like effortless, the authenticity, relaxed, minimal. And at the same time, very right, because it's like the harmony. I feel like he's a guy, he doesn't want his style to create any dissonance or any tension or any discord of any kind. He really wants to represent this kind of pureness. And I think for him, I watched a lot of his stuff leading up to one of the fights. And I definitely think also his energy is just very sweet. And it's very much like his coaching team is kind of like babying him a little bit, even though, he's the fighter. They're kind of like, oh, Brandon, you got this. And they're being so sweet. So Elin also says Moreno is truly an angel. Yeah, he seems kind of like, okay, Bethany, I've thought about the Rogue, but I was like, should the Rebel be renamed the Rogue? I don't know. I feel like they're kind of saying the same thing. Maybe the Rogue is better. I'm open to workshopping it. The reason that I'm have been very open for input for men's archetypes is because I have so many fewer male clients, right? With women, I've had more than 600, almost 700 clients. So I get the story in terms of the essence, and there's some like I like the names and I made them having a lot of experience, but for men I've had like, I don't know, 10, 15 male clients, or I have had maybe like 20 clients who are non-binary using both archetypes, but yeah, it's just I don't have as much data. So I'm very open for input. Archetypes should get the most attractive names. Okay. His appeal seems to relatability. I mean, Brandon for sure, like his appeal is, I don't know, like that. Yeah, he's very pure. And coming with another person who's so pure, Stephen Wonderboy Thompson, I also say the angel, but also maybe the pragmatist. I don't know. That's just the vibe I got from it. I was like very strong on the down dimension and definitely all about the light, harmony, the sun energy, and like the pureness and the elegance, sophistication. But I feel like, yeah, I'm not sure exactly. And then Robert Whitaker, the charmer, because I was like, how can we have a style thing without talking about somebody who is there in the charmer seductress category? So he is the charmer to me. I feel like extremely charming vibe and really using kind of like the power of his charisma, but a little bit with that like slightly bad boy vibes story. So that's just a quick overview. I didn't want to go into these people into too much detail. I just wanted to flag them for you in case you got interested by the stream and then you were like, oh, I want to learn more about these people. Okay, and so we've been going for an hour now, so we're kind of done, I think. But somebody asked about a lady, and I was like, let's look at this lady. So I think that would be fun for us to do together, and then we can wrap it up, I think, because I'm having a really good time. So it's like, do we have to stop? So let's go to Google and let's check out this lady. Rose Namajunas, I guess. Okay, so it's this lady. I know her. Okay, I know her. Yeah, okay. So she's a fighter. Let's just look at some photos of her like beating people up, because I feel like that's the first step, because they're athletes, so we have to respect their athletes. Oof. Okay, so she's like, oh my God. Okay. It's like very intense. Okay, so she's fighting very, very intensely here. And now the next thing I did for the men's UFC fighters is I look at face-off, so we can get a little bit of a quick impression on what does she wear to the face-off. You're seeing that? Good. So here she looks like she's wearing a track jacket and jeans, and she has the shaved hair. So the thing is, for women in the UFC, right, you have to have some sort of a hair control. So shaved hair doesn't have exactly the same connotation within the UFC as it would have outside the UFC. I would say for most women outside of the UFC, having completely shaved hair has a very intriguing vibe, because it's just a very it's a very atypical choice. So it immediately perks up your interest. You're like, what's going on with that lady? But in the UFC, I feel like it has less of that intrigue value, because you're like, oh, she can't get her hair pulled while she fights, so she doesn't want to get it tangled up. Okay, here's another photo of Rose. So here she is wearing what looks to me to be like a hoodie, gray hoodie with khakis. By the way, if anybody knows anything about Rose as a fighter, because I do know a little bit about her story, but I don't remember right away. So if you know like things about Rose, feel free to chime in about like the story, the vibes for her. Let's just look at a couple more face-off photos. Oh my God, this is fun. Oh, she fought Jing Wei Li. She bet she lost. Oh yeah, okay, yeah, right. And she lost. Yeah, I remember. So she's wearing kind of denim cutoffs and a gray t-shirt. So overall, what I'm definitely seeing is a very muted color palette and very minimal styling, right? So she's really, because if you want to wear like denim cutoffs and a t-shirt, you could still use some fun colors, or you could have some fun jewelry. You could add things to make the outfit really fun. Whereas to me, it looks like she's really trying to choose the outfit to almost minimize the level of visual interest in the look. Remember, our like men's terminology, I guess it would be bare for women, understated, whatever. Yeah, so here she's wearing a gray hoodie with jeans again. So that seems to be her face-off style. Is just very, very minimal. And there's her with longer hair. Okay, but she's wearing a UFC t-shirt. All right, and now let's look at her with the press conference to see, because that's a different venue where they can express their visual style. So press conference. Okay, she's wearing a gray hoodie. She's wearing a white zip-up thingy. She's wearing a UFC sweatshirt. She's wearing a checked beige shirt. Okay, and she's wearing this kind of, the white jacket with the yellow t-shirt. So I would say what's definitely sticking out to me is how minimal she wants her style to be, right? She's really wants it to be, I would say, like beyond neutral even, so as to really, really be very deprioritized. Now let's look her up with the words like style to see if we get anything. Okay, it's just stuff about her fighting style. What about fashion? All right, here we can see an outfit. Okay, she's wearing a button-up kind of floral shirt. I like that floral shirt on her. It's a good floral pattern. Here she's wearing a dress with another fun floral pattern and a high thigh slit. Here she's wearing a striped beigey peachy dress that's really minimal. Here she's wearing kind of a blouse with kind of an intriguing scarf pattern. It ties at the waist. She's wearing a black skirt with a slit on the thigh and strappy sandals. So that's her more dressy look. So I would definitely be saying that I'm leaning towards describing Rose as having more of an intriguing sensual style when she does dress up, but I would say very much she's characterized by her desire to keep her style very minimal and understated. So for women, I associate this approach to style where they have this kind of intriguing sensual essence, but like to keep things very, very minimal. I associate that with the spicy girl next door in the left down quadrant. So that's my guess for her probably. So for the archetypes, right, for women, for Spicy Girl Next Door is the archetype for me is really characterized by a really big personal emphasis on freedom, which is not to say that your clothes need to be boring all the time or they need to be minimal all the time, but it's just this freedom from the compulsion to have to create a certain type of look, whether that's what's expected by the environment or the desire to have to maximize the sexiness, right? She has this like insane athletic body, trying to like frame and package it up to the max. She's doing those things, but then when she does dress up, she goes a little bit more in that intriguing sensual direction, and I really like that for her. So that's my guess for her. Spicy Girl Next Door left out. Yeah, I hope that makes sense. Marina's saying, I'm looking into one other style system, and one of the archetypes there is a serious girl. And the author is like, why do people get disappointed when I call them serious girl? I don't know, could be serious girl. I feel like my trick is to give all the archetypes names that are a little bit annoying, so then nobody's singled out by having their own annoying archetype. All right, my lovelies, this has been really, really fun. It's been super fun to chat about the men's system. Been really fun to look at these great examples from the UFC. I'm really happy to see how interested you are in the UFC. I would love to do some more videos in the future, whether for men's archetypes or looking at the female UFC fighters. So just comment below, tell me what you want to see, like the video, like the stream, and I'll see you next time. And thank you so much for being in the chat. It really always feels like we're just having the most like fashion fun hangout, and it is such a huge like joy in my week. So I really can't express how much I appreciate you being here and commenting and just like following along on the stream. Okay, so hope you all have a really good day. It's my Sean O'Malley moment, and I will see you next time. I guess on Sunday, topic TBA. I was thinking about streaming about the Shadows, the Lost Girl, the Ice Queen, but I'm gonna see what comes up. Oh, thank you guys for saying you liked it and then it went well. That's great. I'm really trying to improve the streaming because I feel like it's a great format for me. And I really appreciate also like you being patient with me on the learning curve. But I felt like I'm getting into the groove of things, and I always want to improve everything I do. Oh, the stream ran. Yeah, thank you. I'm happy. Okay, have a good day for other people. Good night for European people.